Hi. Hello. Hello, everyone. It's me, that Divination witch. I hope you're doing well. And I'm back with a witchy video and a bit of a story time to tell you guys. I feel like this might help anyone that's interested in Hecate and in working with deities and things like this. It's a story of how I met Trivia and the lesson I learned, let's say. Let's get into it. If you're new here, hello, welcome. I'm Sarah, that Divination witch. I hope you stick around. It's a safe space, so you can ask questions here. Don't feel judged, don't feel silly. Help each other out, because everyone's different and everyone's got to start somewhere. So ask questions, help each other. If you like that, hit subscribe. And if you want to help the channel grow, aside from that, I do offer readings. I've got an Etsy and a website all below. I also have Patreon and YouTube memberships where I'm teaching you how to read tarot. I'm also teaching magic, and workshops are coming on Patreon too. Back in the days of me still being relatively new to Hecate and learning about her and learning about other deities. And at that time in my practice, I was working with several other deities that had links with my ancestry and links with past lives and things like this. Now I was exploring more of the Roman Pantheon as well. And I had a established relationship, working relationship at that time, with a deity called Sulis Minerva. Now, Sulis Minerva, I've spoke about her on this channel as well, in some of my very, very old videos, if you want to dig them out. I haven't worked with her for years now. I should speak on her at some point. She was a very welcoming deity, is linked to my very ancient ancestors. She is a Roman British goddess. Back when the Romans conquered Britain, she was established. She's a mix of Minerva and Sulis. It's her name. So at that time she was active in my practice, as was Hecate. She always has been. I think Lilith was around. She as well always has been in and out. And aside from Lilith, I believe it was the Norse deities as well. Anywho, I met Trivia. Now, I've made a video about her as well on the channel, very old one too. And Trivia is the Roman version of Hecate. So I met her and I started working with her, a full-on working relationship with her. And she had her own altar and she had her own things, and we did our own readings together and spells together, and she was teaching me lessons and things like this. And she presented herself to me as her own woman, her own goddess. And she did act differently to Hecate, because Hecate, at her very core, to me, always has been and still is a warm energy. Now, she can be tough love. She can be strict and teacher-like sometimes in her lessons, but she always has empathy. She always has an understanding about her, and she can be a bit soft to me. And she is that kind of strict mother that really freaking loves her kids. That's the energy of her. And when I see her manifest, it is usually with her hood up. She has a cloak and a hood. And normally she doesn't really show her face. Sometimes she is doing that more often lately. When she does, it's very Morticia Addams vibes, to be honest. Black hair, very beautiful. Yeah. And that's how I see her. She normally has her hounds, her dogs with her, and a torch and a belt with keys on. And yeah, that's normally how I see her, if I see her at all. And yes, at the time I knew about different aspects of Hecate, of course, and I was exploring more other energies that were like Hecate, and Trivia was one of them, because there are other goddesses from different pantheons that you could argue are similar energies to Hecate. I say sister energies to simplify it. So Morrigan's a good example. Morrigan and Hecate, totally different cultures, but very similar attitudes and energies and things that they rule over. Death, the liminal spaces, justice, can be mother type deities, can be psychopomps. So I was exploring things like that. There are other deities, I would say, sister energies, even still to this day. Nick Neven, Ereshkigal. I can't think of others off the top of my head, but there's a lot. It's just my brain's gone blank. Now, when it comes to Trivia, I saw her like that, as a separate woman, separate deity, but sister energies. And the Roman Pantheon is a complex pantheon, because the Roman Empire was a complex thing. It spanned most of the world, or the known world at the time. And as the Romans conquered different countries, they also adopted their cultures and their deities into their pantheon. Epona is another good example of this. Epona herself is a Celtic horse goddess. Epona was adopted by the Roman cavalry and centurions as kind of a war horse goddess. And that sticks in my mind because the first ever deity confirmation I ever did for someone was Epona, and she was insisting she was Roman, even though I'm like, well, you're Celtic though. It was an aspect of Epona. It was a different nuance to her personality that had that fire, that might of Rome behind her, because the Roman deities are very fiery like that, because it was a war type nation, because they were conquerors. And a lot of their deities, even the healing ones, kind of have that aspect to them, you know? So when it comes to even Minerva, not just Sulis Minerva, I mean, that's an aspect of it, of Minerva, a very nuanced one, because you've got a healing goddess in Sulis, and then the wisdom goddess in Minerva that is also, you know, kind of healing in her own way, and like a sophistication to her, but she's not quite as primal as just Sulis. And yeah, nuances there. But even Minerva herself, people say that, oh, she's just a copy of Athena. No, she's not. Before the Romans were Roman, Italy had the Etruscan pantheon, and there are certain nuances from that the Romans adopted into their deities. They were heavily influenced by the Greeks, very heavily influenced by the Greeks, because they loved the Greek culture as a collective. But their deities are not carbon copies, okay? That's a misconception. Now, the way I see deities right now is that you have a source energy, okay? And that splits off into the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And then you've got different names for creation gods of both sides of the spectrum. So like Sophia is one for the feminine. You could say Gaia is another, Danu, Makosh, you know, all these Mother Earth deities, Chaos even, Hecate in the Chaldean oracles, the masculine, you know, you've got other creator gods. I can't bloody think off the top of my head. Masculine creator gods. How can I not think of that? But you get what I'm saying. I want to say Ra, but I don't know if he is exactly a creator. Oh, it wasn't Ra. It was Amun. Amun, because it was then Amun Ra. Anyways, I am not a historian. I know lots of things, but not everything, okay? So the way I see it, you've got that. So source, then it splits off to masculine, feminine. And then from the creator energies branches off even more. It's like a tree of life. Yggdrasil, Sephiroth, Cliffoth. It's all symbolism linked together throughout the religions, throughout the pantheons, that you can have a war goddess in Minerva, the wisdom of war, in Athena. You could also say Mat to an extent because of the justice side of it, Mat is a Kemetic goddess. And you could also say Freya, but then you could also say Aphrodite and Venus. And honestly, the list goes on. And Nat is in my head for some reason. She was Canaanite, Kemetic, all these pantheons cross over time and link together. So the energy you call on, the archetype you call on, it's one source of it, but the face you are presented with is what you need at the time. And then that gets even more nuanced because deities themselves have epithets. Hecate has so bloody many. On my workshop I've recently done for Hecate, I got a list of them all. It's over 100, easily. Zeus blew my mind because you see Zeus as normally sky god. He has a horned god aspect to him as well. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. And it was found in Egypt when he was crossed over with Ammon, and then there's Ammon-Ra again, and so on and so forth. So the face you are presented with is what best suits you, because in our culture, as we are now, we have so much knowledge across the world, so much history behind us that we've got more to pull from. But back in the day, say in ancient Greece, you are calling on Hecate with 100 epithets. You might call on Enodia if you were from Thebes. You might call on Hecate herself if you were from Athens. They would call on the epithets more because they probably didn't even know who the hell Ereshkigal was. Well, they might have if it was the magical papyri times, because Ereshkigal's another sister energy of Hecate. So when it comes to trivia, what I am trying to say is I didn't understand all of this complicated mess that I've tried to explain to you there. I thought that they were separate beings and that was that. So, yeah, I had a whole working relationship with trivia. She helped me so much. And then she kind of went away. We did what we needed to do, and then she kind of drifted off, But Hecate was still there. Obviously, she's never ever left me. And one day, about 2 years later, Hecate drops a bomb on me. And that helped me understand, though. I was cleaning my altars, organising them, rearranging them. And Trivia still had an altar, even though we hadn't worked together for like ages. And Hecate said, put her things on my altar. And I was like, okay, but will she be okay with that? Will you be okay with that? She was like, Sarah, she was me all along. It was me. And I'm like, what? It was like a jackass moment. What was it? Pranked or punked? Punked. Was that the old MTV show? I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. But why didn't you just tell us then? It's because I wouldn't have understood. And as time went by, my practice developed, speaking with different deities, helping other people. I did eventually understand. And sorry, something was stuck in my mouth there. And yeah, at the time I didn't understand. I saw them as two different women, but they're not. It's the same source energy. So I know her as Hecate, and somebody else might know her as Trivia or Enodia or Brimo or Phosphorus or whoever. Someone else may know her as Ereshkigal. Someone else may know her as Morrigan. Now, it's funny because in my personal practice right now, and I need to talk about her and do a whole video about her at some point, I will. I want to do it justice. But Morrigan has showed up to me. And on the podcast of Keys of Life podcast, go check out the Celtic Hex episode if you're interested in Irish witchcraft. We talk with her because she is an Irish practitioner and her practice has been passed down in her family for generations. I brought up the subject of the Morrigan to her, and I get what she's saying. Like, to her, And to the Irish people, she will always be the Morrigan. You can't erase the culture, you know. And she will always be her own goddess. But fair enough, she is linked with Hecate and that energy, you know, if you get what I mean. So I suppose in hindsight, Trivia will always be her own goddess. But she is part of Hecate still, and Hecate is part of her. And that's the energy source they're coming from, that darker aspect of the divine feminine. And so you listening, you might be presented with Hecate, and then you may also, like me right now even, have the Morrigan there. Now Hecate, I've described her to you there, how she presents to me. And yeah, she's got other sides to her, over 100. But Morrigan's who I need right now for what I am going through. She's helping me assert myself and be confident and fight like a warrior. And Morrigan very much is a warrior. And yeah, boundaries, strength, things like this. I do have some Irish blood in me. I'm mainly got Scandinavian blood in me, but sorry, my computer's beeping at me. But yeah, I mainly have other blood in me, but I feel a link, a kinship with her. So that's probably why it's Morrigan and not a different side of Hecate, or not, say, I don't know, a Nat, because she popped in my head, a Nat. She's a very powerful lady too, very powerful. But it's not her reaching out to me. So it's all about perspective and what you personally need and personally relate to as well. Now, when Trivia was in my life as a separate woman, she was very regal. She didn't have a cloak or anything like that. She had a crown on her head. It was like the Hecate, you know, when you see the Triforma Hecate, the three ladies, she had the dagger in her hand. And she showed me things that Hecate hadn't shown me before. But when I come to think of it, when I go back in hindsight, in my experience with her in astral projection, see, Hecate, and this is a common theme with her witches, or her practitioners or people, if you are privileged enough to ever go to Hecate's home, it is not one set place, because Hecate is a liminal goddess and she traverses the realms. She makes herself home wherever she needs to. And what you see normally is a cave. And the cave is a symbolism. It's a symbol, bloomin' heck, of the in-between space, because a cave is the liminal. And the entrance to Hecate's cave, normally for me personally, and it may be different for you, let me know, I'm interested. It's a stormy beach, because she does have dominion over the sea, and a beach is also a liminal space, but it's always like nighttime and stormy and grey sea, choppy sea. That's where she normally shows me. Trivia showed me something different. She showed me to a cave. The entrance was a tranquil lake. Nighttime, moon was reflecting it, trees all around. And it was like the Lady of the Lake with Excalibur. It really was. She took her dagger and did something with the water and it parted. And we went down, down, down like a spiral staircase into the cave. And when we got into it, it wasn't cave-like. It opened up to a huge, huge, huge castle thing that was kind of carved out of the cave. It was like I was in the underworld. And she showed me the Hoard of the Dead. Now, this is a thing that Hecate is known for, but it was like, if you've ever watched Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, it was like that, where he summons all the dead kings to help him fight. It was like that. People of all shapes and sizes that were following her. and that were kind of at her command. She was queen there. And that's what I saw. So very different, but very similar. And I should have known. It's a cave. Come on, what you doing? And also, I don't know if the episode will be out yet on the podcast, but I spoke with a witch for the podcast, and she mentioned about Nyx and her experience with Nyx. And she was shown a cave as well. And I'm thinking, could it be? Because I have my feeling, this is my feeling, my UPG. I think Hecate is Nyx and Nyx is Hecate. And also Hecate is Nyx, Nyx is Hecate, and they're all chaos. Chaos in Hellenic Greek myth is the primordial divine feminine. Chaos is Tiamat to the Babylonians. Chaos is the first energy, that primordial energy that created the feminine creator. I see them all as the same. And when I've seen chaos, it's been very briefly, meaning the goddess, she wears a robe like Hecate. And I'm like, yes, they're all the same. It's again from that energy. And it's just who we resonate with and who we need. So some people might get Nyx. I get Hecate, you know? Whew. It's blew my mind even rehashing this and talking about it. I didn't think it would, but it has. So that's what I wanted to explain. And it replaces my old video on trivia, I suppose. Well, not really. I'll have to do a video about trivia, an updated version. But this is the story how Hecate dropped a bomb on me 2 years after something, and I went, oh shit, and that's how I learned. Oh shit, okay. Right. Oh. Boom. Mind blown. Spirituality is complex, okay? It is. Deity work's complex. Paganism's complex. There's so many nuances to it. It's so personal. And what I will tell you is what Hecate has told me to tell you before, and I'm going to say it again at the end of this video. Don't compare yourself to other people. Don't compare your practice to other people. You can take hints and tips from people and learn, of course, but don't put yourself down or say you're not good enough when you listen to other people's stories, things like this. We're all different, we're all unique, and there's nobody better than anyone else. We've all got something we can bring to the table. We've all got different talents, different strengths and weaknesses. So remember that, okay? And yeah, I'm interested if you've got any stories like this, let me know. If you made it this far, you may as well hit subscribe. And yes, until next time. Stay safe, stay witchy.